And you got this guy, this Lukey guy, who's obviously some groiper, who's admittingly himself not doing anything, not actually effective or part of anything, and he's here.
No, he didn't say that. He said he's in students for Yay.
Yeah, he's one of the top guys. It's him and it's Dan Schmidt.
These people are such like fucking cunts, honestly.
Criticizing people who are actually involved in movements and making change.
Yeah, this is literally a repeat. I mean, of like the whole Richard Spencer thing. Like you've got these.
No,
it 100% is. Why don't you debate Patrick Casey on it then? Why don't you go on? He's doing Discord debates. Go on his Discord stream next time and debate him on what happened with the alt.
Some people should do that. This sounds like some good cozy material. Like just jump on the Pat Casey Discord debate and
dude, these guys don't even know what happened with Spencer. They don't even know what happened with Spencer.
The thing is with Spencer, right? Like the way I saw it is like Spencer was trying to do good optics. Like that was the whole point of alt-right was kind of optical, right? It was like if we wear nice suits and have a cool haircut and we have like a preppy, upper class voice, but we're also Nazis, maybe that'll work. You know what I mean? Like instead of like, but the problem was
well, they got rolled by the alt-right corporation. They got fucking hornswoggled and hoodwinked by.
The problem was there was no there. Like
they got used up. They were always going to throw them out. They just wanted to use whatever they had to get Trump over the finish line, and they threw them out. They literally stabbed them in the back. They did it to guys with yellow names on this channel too, or on this site. They did it to Yoba. At the
I agree with that, but it's like Spencer didn't really have a kind of rigid ideological vision, but a lot of people look back on that, I think rightly, and say, oh, that was kind of like he could have done more with that, but it was mismanaged. He was too busy boozing and doing coke and trying to fuck everyone's girlfriends and so on and banging hoes and just like being like the rock star Nazi, right? Rather than, building a cadre that would hold together and a coherent aesthetic that they could continue. And
Spencer also has a replacement. And I talked with Spencer about this right after AFPAC on a Twitter space that he wandered into. And it's Pedro Gonzalez. Pedro Gonzalez replaced Spencer as Paul Gottfried's protege. And when I asked Richard Spencer what he thought about Pedro, he literally said, it's so fucking rich that this guy's out here saying the same fucking shit I was saying, and he's just allowed to say it because he's a fucking Mexican. And he just went off, dude.
But Richard's real inheritor is a different Mexican or a different quarter Mexican.
Well, I just mean in terms of what Richard was doing in 2016 and the Magic era. Like he was being linked with Breitbart. Like Milo was the link, writing these guys up in Breitbart. That's when the alt-right corporation stuff was happening with Giorgiani. And that's all above board. Guys have gone out there and talked about it. They were literally promised access to aspects of the coming administration. And once the candidate got over the finish line, and it wasn't just Richard and it wasn't just Jason, it was Baked Alaska that was thrown out. It was a ton of other dudes, Ricky Vaughn, they all got left out in the cold. And Nick knows that. Nick didn't even start to execute this kind of steering wheel maneuver on the what was left of the dissident right until really during the dead cat bounce 5 years ago. So it was a year after that had happened. And Nick, he's not missing anything about, generally being aware of what happened and what befell people who thought that they could make deals with the establishment in that old way. Bookcat and I talked about it in a space with Nick over the summer at some point about the radical difference in the knowledge now, not just from having a failure point to examine from back then, but also just the massification of a movement that began to create through Nick, like content that appealed to young politicians. And that's a huge difference. Like you brought in an audience of guys who have been obsessed with becoming a politician since they were children. And what they want is to hear about the praxeology of this. And in many cases, they are in it at the concomitant level. That's very different from what Richard was doing. It's not the academic world of ideas. It's not the poli-sci world. It's literally 20-year-old congressional page world. It's RNC world. It's TPUSA functionary world. So that brings an entirely different edge to the practicality and the learned and lived experience of guys who are either entering that based on the content that they've been watching since they were kids through America First, or guys that are finding America First through the networking that Groypers are doing those events. It's radically different.
The difference with Spencer as well, though, was Spencer's whole thing was appeal to elites. Like he's like this elitist oh, we're going to create this like cool swanky think tank, and then we're going to get like these like elites to come and support us, and it's going to be this like top down thing. We're going to get like, you know, donors in, patrons, and then we're going to be this like presentable, you know, Nazi thing. Whereas like what I see, AF is a grassroots movement. It's not about, it's not dependent upon some top down, like it will take those opportunities when they arise of people giving support from the top down and providing access, but it's not dependent upon that access. Like it's a grassroots movement, the kids across America, and they will force their way into shit through sheer numbers.
They're already in it. It's a movement of young
Like,
politicians.
but you know what I mean? Like they're not dependent upon anyone from the top down, like giving them a position. It's like that. It the gropers are just imposing themselves on the situation, and then, you know, you'll take whatever additional wins you can get on top. So that gives a certain resilience that the Spencer thing never had, which is why as soon as like you get rocked with one setback, it fell apart. Whereas like the Groypers have a capacity to kind of morph with the political cycle and keep reinventing themselves if they kind of hold that kind of grassroots core identity together, because
they're entirely political. Like they are in many cases people who are in the system who are attracted to the content. And that's what wakes them up. I get guys reach out to me all the time. They'd be like, you did this stream where you read a book on stream. You read Rise of the Southern Republicans. And I didn't know there was content out there about this. And I didn't, you know, I'm from the South and didn't know that this happened. And they are hardcore Groypers. And these are dudes that you could put on on a flyer, on a pamphlet, in a TV ad with the same amount of money that you'd back any candidate at the party level for a congressional seat, and they would win if they had that support. They're Chads. They're like 6'2". They're well-spoken. They're out there kicking in doors for themselves, and they are down with the movement, and they are kill, rape, and die gang. Like that's what America First really is. And that's where it's way different than a bunch of dudes thinking about measuring the drapes after they win or something. Step one, we racist shit post and do meme magic. And step two, question mark. Step three, total racist victory. These are guys who are literally youth politicians, and they are at the exact concomitant level where real political operatives, electioneers, and candidates were at their same ages. That's what's different.